introduce yourself.
Yeah, okay. Are the mics going? Does this? Yeah, okay.
You can go on. I just have
Okay, you good? Hey, hi everyone. My name's Tristan, and I've got Jason Kai and Ali Khan with me. We're from Western University in London, and we have booked this emergent session to talk about Snakebids, which is a tool for writing reproducible neuroimaging workflows as BIDS apps. So I'll give a brief introduction to what workflow management means for anyone who to just in the name of including people who haven't done anything like it before, and then I'll go through kind of workshop style, building up a kind of toy example using Snakebids, and then I can give a bit of a demo. So if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate if you're in person to raise a hand, or if you're virtual to type in the chat. I envision it kind of as a workshop style session, so I'm happy to take questions as we go to keep everyone kind of at the same place. So all that said, I will get going. Okay, so I guess this is kind of a dense slide, but the idea with workflow management is that if you're doing any kind of computational analysis for say some study you're performing, it's good to know before and after you've done it what tools you're planning to use and what data you're planning to apply those tools to, and in what order you're doing that. So if you're doing everything kind of manually, usually at a command line or something, it can be hard to go back and remember what you did, which is kind of the whole idea of reproducibility. And so kind of the entry-level solution to this is to write some kind of a script where you go through and hard code every command that you're using on every file, which is better. But if you want to generalize it or apply this workflow to new data that is of the same type, something like that, when you have a script where you've hard coded all your files and tools and things like that, it is still brittle or difficult to generalize. So there are a class of tools called workflow management, where you can describe more generally what tools apply to which files and what you need to do in what kind of an order, and it will figure out what commands you want to run and what tools you want to use based on what you give it. So in the name of reproducibility and open science, if you provide your kind of analysis in this form of workflow, it is often easier for other people, especially if you containerize it or something like that, to reproduce the analysis that you've done, or apply it to their own data or their own kind of situation. And so our group adopted Snakemake, which is one of these workflow management tools. It's generally, I think, more popular in kind of the bioinformatics space. I haven't seen a lot of neuroimaging people using it. I guess out of curiosity, is there anyone out there in the audience who knows Snakemake or has used it? Okay, so there are a few people actually. And for those of you who don't, good, that's why we're here. But we found that using BIDS data sets that have these kind of long file paths, and if you have multiple sessions in one data set and multiple sessions and not in another one, it can be hard to write a Snakemake workflow that is nice, and then it doesn't provide a BIDS data or a BIDS app interface by default. So we've kind of extended this Snakemake tool with some tools that make it easier to do standardized neuroimaging style things. So just as a quick example, this is a diagram of the kind of workflow we're talking about, pulled from Glasser et al., talking about the HCP pipeline. So they have a pipeline that they apply before FreeSurfer, and then that splits off into a bunch of things. And I won't go through it in detail, but the point is that you've got a number of tools that you want to apply in a specific order that might be different depending on the circumstances of the input data you're using. And so using Snakebids or a tool like it will help you manage this and reproduce it in a kind of a generalizable way that can work on more than one specific data set. Okay, so I'm going to go into the kind of technical level introduction to Snakebids. So this is where I'll be showing some code, and it's on a Python basis. So if you know Python, you're at an advantage here, but it's okay if you don't. So if I'm losing you, feel free to let me know, and I will try to go back and explain things in a different way. Okay, so and I'll start by mentioning that I'll start with only the Snakemake features that we're not responsible for. I want to be clear about what we have developed and what we haven't. So the Snakemake is a tool that exists, but we aren't like Snakemake developers. But I'll make it clear once we're introducing things we've added. Okay, so this is in a text file what about the simplest possible Snakemake workflow would look like. So we've got a rule that we've called smooth. So this is the name. And we've just hard-coded the path to some input file that we know the path of. So it's bold acquisition. And we say, and we specify the output that this rule will create. So, I've lost my screen sharing. So sorry if you're virtual. Give me one moment. Or I guess everyone can't see it. Sorry, what am I seeing here? Can you invite me to go up on screen again? Oh, I think it's the internet.
Yeah.
Sorry, bear with me here for a minute. Is this working? Okay, we're loading in again. Are you in the crowdcast? Is there any way you can?
I could.
Okay, wait. Here we go. Okay, here. Okay, I think we're back in business. Are we seeing the slides again?
You might need to be invited back.
Oh, I thought I did. Okay. We've encountered an unexpected error. Awesome.
No.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so going back, we're looking at a simple Snakemake workflow here, kind of the simplest possible that is not all that more useful than just writing a bash script, but it'll be a starting point for our understanding. So we've got...
Oh, there's a question right there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you also make this full screen? Like, there's a lot of extra things,
that's,
and I imagine it would be hard for people at the time
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
anything.
I think that's.
Isn't that one next to close video? That looks like a full screen button.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Oh.
I think this
Oh no.
Or F11.
Okay.
F11. Let's try that. Yeah. It works.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got a rule that we're calling smooth because we're using FSL math-s to smooth some input image. Right here, we've got bold acquisition, and we're going to smooth it to a full width half maximum of 5 millimeters. And the way we do that is we specify the input file, which exists somewhere in our file system already, some path to an output file that we want to make, and then the shell script that will generate that output file. So we've got the command FSL mask that we have to have installed for this workflow to work. And then with input in braces here, that will be replaced with whatever we have in our input column, which right now is just a hard-coded path to some file that exists on our file system. And we've lost the slides again.
Oh, no. You want to try for yours? Yeah. Do you want to see if she
Could
Yeah,
you
I
invite Jason Kai as
hopefully my internet doesn't.
The wire.
Oh, yeah. I'm Grandmaster. I was. Wireless.
yeah. This is not the newest laptop either, so it's possible the network card is just overworked.
I invited.
Do you have the slides?
I do have the slides.
Excellent.
Just make sure this is muted. How do I- oh, God. There we go.
Oh, you your video off.
I don't know where anything is. Should play some stressful music. Mission
Are there
Impossible.
controls on here?
There are somewhere. There should be.
Like I don't, I can just turn off from there. Like you go over there.
Yeah. Are you? Do we have a screen share? That's
No.
the other thing we need for the computer.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. Okay, wait, I'm gonna refresh this.
Just sitting there staring.
Because you're on screen.
I know. Well, my thing's just frozen.
I can
Awesome.
remove you and again invite you.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sorry for these technical issues.
We can share the slides too.
Okay.
We could share the slides too,
Oh, we could do that.
if that's easier. While we're like waiting.
Your computer is fine.
It's just reconnecting for me. Are we able to just
Can you
use
please
that?
join again?
Yeah, I'm rejoining. We can't use that computer to.
Oh, we probably could. That's actually a good idea. Let me post the link to the slides in the chat.
I can. Oh, wait, I can't do that. Yeah, I lost internet. Thanks for bearing with us. Check your email.
Okay, so in the chat, there's this link.
Oh, good. All
But
right.
we,
You want to sit there?
can the people online see it though? That's my only concern. I don't think they can. Can we?
Rob?
My slides from like my laptop, like my connection to Crowdcast keeps dropping.
Yeah.
Oh, can you put the slides on this?
Yeah,
computer?
they're
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so we just need
Okay,
to
yeah.
share the screen
So you
from
just
this
need to
computer.
Share the screen here, so if you go over, you can share your screen there. Is it a, so if you go to Chrome tab, you can share this one.
Perfect.
So if you leave
Okay,
now,
we're back in
You want
business.
to
Yeah,
just-
can you mind if I switch seats with you? Okay, hopefully this should be bulletproof now. Sorry. Sorry again for the delay there, and I've lost my slide.
Just one
Okay.
quick reminder, can you hit F11 again?
Oh, yes. That did not appear to do anything because we're screen sharing. Okay.
It's big enough? Okay, all right.
Sorry for the in-person people. Okay. So I've gone through it a couple of times. I don't know how far we've gotten, but we've got a rule where we specify an input file that exists, an output file that we want, and a shell script that generates that file from the input. So this expands to whatever we have here, and this output in braces expands to whatever we have here. And so because the shell command creates a file at the output path, we've specified the way to generate this output file from this input file. And then at the command line with this code in what we call a snake file, we can run snake make, and then we give it as an argument the file that we want. And because this string matches exactly to this file path, we get this shell command run, and we get our output. So this will work, but we'll only ever be able to, with this rule, get the output for subject 1 and run 1 in this data set, which is not ideal, obviously. We like I talked about, we want to be able to generalize and do this potentially for any booled image as part of our full workflow. So what we can do next is add wildcards in the input and output path. So now instead of specifying in our input path subject 1 and task, I forget what the task was, rest, I think, and run 1, we enclose wildcard names in braces. So we've got subject, task, and run as wildcards in this rule now. We've added a parameter that we'll be able to customize later, and we've added the same wildcards to the output path. And so now the shell thing is almost exactly the same, except where we want to get our sigma argument from this parameter, from this new params directive. And then the Snakemake call from the command line looks almost exactly the same, except you can specify any file that matches this wildcarded path. So anything that has a subject, a task, and a run that follows this path will be able to generate. So this looks almost exactly the same, but we can use subject 2 instead of subject 1. So what Snakemake does is looks for some rule that satisfies this path, including all the wildcards, and then figures out from this path what the wildcards are, and generates your shell command. So this is already a lot more generalizable than what we started with. And then another thing we can do is generate our parameter using a Python function. So this is just a function that takes the wildcards from our rule. So we've got this full width half maximum wildcard in our output, and we'll figure out what the sigma we need for the smoothing function from that full width half maximum. And so this makes it, again, more generalizable, because when we're running our Snakemake command, we can put anything in this 5mm slot, and it will properly generate it'll properly calculate the sigma we want, and run the correct command to generate our output file. So we're progressively more generalizing the smoothing rule as part of our workflow. And then, so the kind of inconvenient part here is that we've had to specify the exact file we want every time. And if, say, we wanted to smooth a bunch of different files, we would have to run this over and over again with our wildcard subbed out from the command line. So what we can do now is specify a new rule that includes all the subjects that we know we have, and all the tasks that we know we have, and all of the runs we know we have, and whatever smoothing factors we would like. And so that's what we're doing here. So by convention, these rules are called all, and we put them at the top of the snake file, and that gets run by default. And because all we have is an input here, Snakemake won't do anything with the input, but will look for the rules that can generate these files if they don't already exist. And so the way we specify files from a list of different wildcards is by using that same path that we had as the output to our last function. So result/sub with subject wildcards and task wildcards and run wildcards and other wildcards. And then the expand function, we can provide lists of concrete values that we want for that wildcard. So like say we have one subject, multiple runs, one task, and a bunch of different smoothing factors we'd like. This function will resolve to a list of every possible combination of the wildcards you've provided. And then, so we could call Snakemake all here, or if we put it at the top of the our snake file above our other rule we've defined, we'll be able to expand over this path and get all of these different files without needing to know or without needing to know from the command line what the list of every single file we want is. And finally, for this section, what we can do is add a config file called config.yml next. So it's a YAML file if you know that specification, and we can specify what subjects we want. For example, what task we might want, all the different values of our wildcard. Oh, and I forgot in this slide to actually use it. But what we would do is access a config variable here. So we could, in Python terminology, access the subjects member of the config dictionary, and it would grab it from this config file automatically. Sorry for the oversight in the slides. So that all works reasonably nicely. But it is possible that you might want to smooth a bunch of, the smoothing is kind of a toy example, but say you wanted to do this and you had, instead of a data set with multiple subjects, all of which have one session, you would have multiple subjects, all of which have multiple sessions. That's not accounted for in the input paths and output paths that we've dealt with. And you would kind of have a proliferation of rules that do almost the exact same things in order to handle that nicely. And so that's a tough part about using Snakemake in BIDS-y kind of data sets. Writing out those long BIDS file paths is non-ideal. And if you wanted to run this as a BIDS app, which has a specified interface, so to run a BIDS app, you have to use the command name, the input BIDS data set, a location for an output BIDS data set, or your output files in general, and then a participant or group analysis level. Because all of our Snakemake invocations look like this, or just Snakemake with some output file, we're missing the proper interface. And that's all kind of workaroundable, but in kind of an annoying way. And so that's why we've generated, or that's why we built the Snakebids extension to Snakemake to make writing these kinds of workflows in a computational neuroscience environment a little bit easier. So we've started by integrating PyBids. So Snakemake is kind of a Python tool, and if you know PyBids at all, it makes it easier to generate the kind of BIDS file paths that we need here. So instead of writing out manually that whole long file path, maybe getting the entity ordering wrong, something like that, we can use a BIDS function here. And you can still use wildcards where you need them. We know that we want our output file in our results directory, and then we've got a wildcard for all of these things. And we know that we want a bold image because it's just a smooth version of our bold input image. And here I've actually used that config dictionary I talked about last time. And so it just makes it a little bit nicer to look at and to write and edit, because we're specifying the BIDS path functionally rather than hard coding some path with a bunch of wildcards instead. So that is a nice quality of life feature. But the part that makes this really nice is we've wrote this snakebids.generateInputs function, where in our config file, we've defined under PyBids inputs a specification for the files we want. So we want bold images that are nifties appropriately under the functional BIDS data type. But we don't care what the subject is. There's always a subject. We don't care what the session is, or if there even is a session defined. If you've defined these other entities, we don't care for this specific rule what they are. And so by defining this config file and then using the snakebids.generateInputs, we tell it where our input BIDS directory is. We give it the parsed version of our config of our config specification here. We can ignore the use BIDS list thing. It's not all that important for this application. And then what this allows us to do is in our input file, instead of listing out all of our different wildcards that are BIDS standards, we can use the star suffix that just takes a dictionary and fills it all out. So our inputs.input wildcards under bold, which corresponds directly to this, works out to a Python dictionary from subject to the appropriate snakemake wildcard. So that is a nice quality of life and shortens our workflow and removes boilerplate that will most often be exactly the same. And then we can also, the real important part of this to me is the input list. So instead of having to know what all our concrete values are for every wildcard or to find it in a config file like we did before, Snakebids will go through, figure out what's there and populate this itself. So it will, from walking the file tree of your data set, know that there's one subject, one task, these runs. If there were different acquisitions, it would find them. And so this immediately makes our workflow a lot more generalizable to different kinds of data sets as long as they fit the specification that we've laid out with our filters.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm sorry, I got a bit lost. How do you populate the output directory where Snakebids is writing? So, or to formulate it in a different question, in a different way, the problem with the Snakemake was that it was not handling properly the BIDS path, and then you write this wrapper to make it work through that.
Yeah. So
You
sorry.
have to have the data in a BIDS format.
Yes. So for this to work, your input data needs to be in a BIDS format. But because the purpose of this Snakebids tool was to allow you to use the Snakemake workflow management tool to write BIDS apps, which require BIDS formatted data as an input anyway. And the question was about, or the kind of intro to the question for the people online was about how we specify the outputs from our other rule using this tool. And it's almost exactly the same way, except we don't expand over it. So we can write this BIDS function and use input wildcards, and it will supply the right wildcards for the input data set, except we just don't expand over it. So we'll have your output path with the appropriate wildcards based on what your input data set is. So it's a little bit of an inversion of the way that Snakemake normally works, but because we can inspect the input data set before we start processing, we'll know what wildcards are appropriate to use. And by supplying this inputs.input wildcards variable that's populated by Snakebids, we don't need to worry about specifically what wildcards are there because they'll be automatically populated.
In your example here, does it mean that you have to specify which subject task run you want to run it, or will it run if you provide a big dataset with several subjects /task/run? It will find them and it will run on everything.
Yeah, so the question was, in this example, do you need to specify somewhere exactly what subjects you want to run, or will it find them and run it on them automatically? And the answer is that it will find anything that matches the filter. So if you want to constrain what subject you're running it on, you can change this wildcard or you can change subject from being under the wildcards to under the filters and specify, say, a list. Like if you want subject 1 and 2, you can specify it that way. But the way we have it set up, it will just find every subject because subject is specified as a wildcard in every session, if there are multiple sessions, for example, and it will supply those appropriately to your rules, assuming that you use.
And then just for added clarity, so the far right box, that's generated by Snakebids. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this is explaining what is in here that's generated by Snakebids, but you don't need to specify this yourself.
I was just wondering on top of that, would it be easy to use a wildcard and an exclusion criterion as well, for like what subjects not to use?
I think so.
Like I think we did actually include, so in Snakebid, in the input parser, there is a exclude participant list that you can include. There's also, I don't know if it's merged yet, but there's another way to filter based on subjects. So you can use regular expressions and things like that. But yeah, there's ways to exclude wildcards or subjects. Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, just for the people online to repeat the question. The question was whether it's easy to include the same or to have a wildcard over subjects, for example, and exclude or exclude certain members that are otherwise wildcards. And the answer is not necessarily directly from here, but there are ways to do it.
What happens when you cannot? So I guess that the output of these parsing generates a log. So what happens to a participant that doesn't fit that particular pattern, or do I know that that subject has not been processed, or do I have to go then through my subject directory and check all the? Is there a log to?
Yeah. I guess there's two things there. I mean, to address the point of does Snakemake know what's been processed already? Yeah, so Snakemake will keep track of when a rule runs, whether it successfully generates an output, looking at exit codes and whether the file was created. And so it keeps track of what needs to be run and what has been run already. And also when an input dependency changes. So if like an input file changes or your code changes, it will find out what to rerun. So it does all that for you automatically. The other point, I don't know if you were specifically talking about this, but if say you did this and subject 2 only had 1 run, like there was no run 2. For that, there's another way of specifying the input lists that's also produced that gives you. I mean, do you want to explain the zip list?
Yeah, sure. So the input list assumes that every subject will have the same wildcards, but there is and so expand will just give you, or it will assume that every combination of wildcards that you give it exists. But there's a different way of specifying this expand function where you can give it zip lists, which is just a list of the same length for every file you want. And so that list will exclude any files that aren't there if the wildcards aren't consistent across all of your subjects, for example.
So, but then, sorry to.
Yeah, no,
but then you have to know which subjects have which file. I'm thinking if you have 600 subjects,
yeah,
200, then it might be difficult to go through each and one of those, or you can write a script to generate, I guess, which files are present or not. But will this handle all the subjects and give you the exception?
Yeah, so it generates that list for you.
So this will handle that situation totally fine. And then so you can have Snakemake produce an HTML report of what specifically it ran and what all your output files are, things like that. So you can, there are some QC tools that are will assist in kind of looking over what exactly you got. And if it ever tries to create some output based on what you specified and doesn't find the requisite input files, it will run all the steps it can until it finds something missing that it doesn't know how to generate. And so that exception will be reported properly.
If your workflow relies on some very specific software, is there a easy way of containerizing this workflow?
Yes. So I was going to mention that, but under every rule, there is a container directive. So you can give it, a Docker Hub URL, something like that, if you've got a container for that specific rule. If you prefer Conda, you can specify a Conda environment, and it will generate the right, or an environment specification. It will generate the environment for that rule. Otherwise, another way you can do things is install everything you need for your whole workflow and run your workflow from a container. That requires more manual work, but there are multiple ways of doing things, and Snakemake handles containerization natively. Okay, if there are no further questions, I will get through the end of this. And so the last thing that we added in Snakebids to Snakemake is this concept of a Snakebids app. So there's a template that generates this, but this is just a little Python script where we create this Snakebids app and this will go through and find your input files and all that. And it exposes a command line interface that is precisely the BIDS app definition. So if this Python script is called myapp.py, you can run it with your input BIDS directory, your output directory, and participant level. And assuming that in the config you've mapped participant level to some rule, so say it would look something like subject maps to the rule all in this workflow, and then if you have different group level analyses, you can map that to a different rule. And so if you write this script, make it the default, and then containerize the whole thing, you can distribute it as a BIDS app just like anything else. So if you've got some more generalizable workflow that you want to distribute that way, Snakebids makes it a bit easier to bridge the gap between the BIDS app interface and the native Snakemake interface. Okay, so that was the kind of tutorial level and introduction to how we use Snakebids and the way that you can apply it to handling BIDS data sets and things like that. A few things that I won't go into in detail that are nice, and a lot of these have been kind of covered by questions actually. But so you can modularize your rules, so you can define rules that you want to in some file that you want to use across different Snakemake apps, and then import them across things. So it's got that nice feature. You can define a Docker container or a Singularity container to run per rule, or a Conda environment if that's more your style, and it'll use those nicely. You've got HTML reports for every run if you want them. That will help you do kind of quality control and make sure you understand what's been done and why. We've got a project template in Snakebids, so if you install Snakebids via pip or whatever your Python package manager of choice is, you can run Snakebids create, and it will generate more or less the tutorial app that we just created, and you can edit it to your heart's content. And if anyone here knows Boutiques, which provides kind of a structured descriptor of the way an app runs, you can generate that for your Snakebids app automatically. A couple of examples of projects that we're using Snakebids in. There's Hip Unfold. Most of these are correspond to posters that are at OHBM if you're interested. So Hip Unfold is a tool that looks at the hippocampus in nifty images and unfolds it to a standard space. We've got a work in progress tool to place fiducials automatically that correspond to anatomical features. We've got an app that masks masks the brain out in fetal bold MRI images. So there are a few different examples out there if you're interested in looking at kind of more real complex workflows. And that's it for kind of the presentation part. Here's the GitHub link if you're interested in or have any questions or any feature suggestions. We are very open to getting more contributors or more feature requests or anything like that. Here's our list of contributors with special mention to the GitHub Actions bot, and especially to Peter, who is not at OHBM but has contributed a lot to this project. Okay. Thank you very much. I can give a quick demo if you want. It might be better to do kind of offline, given the technical issues I've had using my own laptop here.
All right. Yeah, happy to take any questions from the audience now.
Yeah. So we're up here. I don't know whether it's worth having the broadcast still on, but
yeah, I think we can keep it on.
Yeah. Okay.
It's still time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, probably. So I suspect I'm like myself, like many others, been thinking about workflow management, how to set up these higher order analyses. You've obviously gone to the effort of looking into that and decided that Snakemake is an appropriate platform to implement a BIDS wrapper. Can you provide some insight as to what it was that led you to make the decision that Snakemake was the appropriate platform to invest your own efforts in?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I think the key features were so one, the fact that every rule you write can be self-contained. So and this is really nice for rapid prototyping. So if you have a rule that uses FSL or MRTrix or what have you, all you have to do is just put the container URI there, and you're good to go, or path to the container. And so it's easy to build workflows that have lots of different dependencies. It's easy to add new dependencies. You don't have to build new monolithic containers every time you change your workflow. So that's one really nice feature for rapid prototyping. The other one is you never have to connect your nodes or your rules together. So this is done implicitly by Snakemake by, it's in the same way that it's done with make or make files. So it starts with, and that's why you have this sort of target rule that needs to be there, where you have some concrete output. And then from that, it finds out what it needs to produce. And so it builds your entire graph, so you never have to connect things manually. So in comparison to, say, an iPiper, you're having to connect nodes of different, or connect edges between different nodes in your graph. You never have to do that in this case. So that also makes it just really nice for rapid prototyping. And I guess the third thing, again, just because I think the big advantage is for rapid prototypes. So the third thing there is you don't have to write wrappers or interfaces for any of the tools you're using. You just plop your shell command right into your rule, and then you're ready. So there's never any overhead to incorporate new tools or new steps into your workflow. There's other features in here that are also useful. So I mean, the other thing that we didn't talk about was sort of cluster execution. Cluster execution. So in Snakemake, the idea is the execution is completely separate from the workflow specification, which is nice. So there are profiles that you can adopt that are already made for Slurm or other cloud-based execution or cluster execution. So you just have to adopt one of those using this profile command line argument, and then you can submit your jobs on a cluster as well. So it's a really well-developed system. It's the other thing. I mean, it's Python. So your snake file is like, in addition to like the Snakemake directives that they added, everything else is Python. So you can put any kind of code in your snake file. It will just be interpreted as Python. Yeah, I mean, I guess those are the key features. But I mean, I think if you're interested in looking at, like, just in general what the advantages are for Snakemake, there's a really nice poster. If you trying to figure out what's, oh yeah, so it's an F1000 rolling paper that really describes a lot of the key features. But those were the main ones. Also, sorry, the other one I would say is readability. So you can open a workflow and you instantly know what each step is doing. You can see it right there. There's no extra layers of abstraction that make it hard to understand what a workflow is actually doing. Hopefully that.
Yeah, I have all sorts of questions about esoterics, but I'll
Yeah.
open it up to anyone else.
If you have a link to that poster, by the way, that would be good to post in the chat.
Yeah, let me see. I'll post that now.
I
Do you mind, sorry, do you mind showing quickly what this boutique thing is?
Oh, sure.
Anything there, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what the best way of showing it is. I'll see if I can find the documentation. But essentially, given a software tool generically, Boutiques is a tool that can take a structured description of what arguments that tool takes on the command line, and you can specify types and things like that for the arguments, and produces, and that's called a Boutiques descriptor. And then you can use that descriptor. It's used in I think CBrain, which is
yeah, CBrain and a number of other compute platforms. So yeah, it's just a way of describing the API of, like, the interface of the app.
Yeah.
In a way that other tools would understand it. I mean, there's other ways that Snakemake has built in as well. There's this common workflow language that can describe the internals of the workflow. So that's built in as well. You can export to that format. But yeah, I mean, it's not the Boutiques feature actually isn't one that we use often. But yeah. Yeah.
I believe the BIDS applications to BEP is integrating boutiques
Oh,
into
good
that
point. Yeah.
specification.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I guess in the absence of any other questions and the good kind of technical difficulties with running a demo, I think we will just close the session. If you have any other questions for us, feel free to approach us now or later.
Thank you.
Thanks.